My name's Tome LaPorte. I'm an assistant water commissioner, and for the last couple of years, I've been the face of basement flooding in Chicago. I want to talk for a couple of minutes about what's going on, about what we can do about it, how we prevent it in the future, and how we need to be in very direct contact, in partnership with each other, in trying to prevent this from happening. Let me tell you how it got started in my life. Okay, I got called to the 8th Ward a couple of years ago, and there had been a serious flood, as serious as we're seeing reflected here tonight. It hadn't happened elsewhere in town. I had been in the 15th Ward the night that the flood took place, and it really hadn't rained all that hard. I was hit with the kinds of questions, the kind of frustration, the kind of loss, the kind of torment that I'm seeing here tonight and seeing out in the hallway. It was a very serious situation. And what I said to the folks that night was that I could do what the city normally does, or I shouldn't say it that way, I can do what the city might be inclined to do and give you some quick answers and get out of here as fast as possible. That's something that's not fair to you. You have serious questions. You have a right to know what the answers are. You need to have the conversation. And I said, I can do one of two things. I can either do that and get out of here fast, or I can come to your next meeting with all of the experts and bring them, fill the stage with them, and we can answer every question you have. We opted for the second one, and what I did in the meantime was give people emergency information through the alderman's office on cleanup and on health issues and that kind of thing. And then I brought the experts back in, and we had an overflow crowd again. This was over at the McDowell School on 89th Street. We came back in. I think it's 89th. Anyway, we came back in and basically came up with the idea, a couple of insights that we need to consider and we need to understand. One, there's a new kind of storm that's hitting the Chicago area and is related to climate change. It's a new kind of storm that hits with more force than any of us have seen in our lifetimes before on a regular basis. And it's characterized in three ways: very local, very intense, and very brief. So it can really slam the 6th, 7th, and 8th wards as it did that night, and everybody floods. We have hundreds of people flooded, but it becomes a drizzle or just a moderate rain elsewhere in town. On other years, we've seen it on the north side, we've seen it on the west side. It's a phenomenon of weather, and it's happening, and it's not going to stop. That presents a serious problem, and it means that what we have to do is figure out how do we prevent, when the rain is coming down at the rate of 2 or 3 inches in an hour, how do we prevent that from getting into our basements? Now, the basic thing that's happening is that when you have that much rain coming down all at once, it overwhelms the sewer system. The sewer system was put in 100 years ago, and it was designed for what they call a 5-year storm. A 5-year storm is a storm where there's 1% chance of that happening every 5 years. That's kind of an archaic formula now, because the kind of storm we're seeing is dumping 2 and 3 inches of rain in an hour. Once the sewer fills up, and you try and put more water into the sewer, you're going to wind up with that water going wherever it's easiest to go. And that's going to be people's basements. And that's a simple fact of physics. That's how water works. What we have to do is figure out how can we overcome that on those occasions when it's going to rain like that, because it is going to rain like that. What we came up with is that the city has to do everything it possibly can to prevent water from entering the sewer at that time and to make the sewers work efficiently and effectively to their capacity. We have to also work with the people we serve to prepare properties to not exacerbate the problem, to make the problem less pronounced and to avoid floods whenever we can. If you look at the average house, for instance, the average house has a roof that is the equivalent of concrete. It's an impermeable surface. Water flows off the roof into the gutter goes down into the ground in most cases in Chicago housing. What happens underground is that the water goes straight into the private drain. If the sewer is already full, the private drain can't accept that water.